For more on all that's been happening over these 2 weeks at the COP30 summit, I'm joined in the studio by our environment reporter, Valérie Dekimpe. So now we know the final draft wording has dropped. What's in the deal?
Well, there is a call for rich nations to make efforts to triple adaptation finance for developing countries by 2035. So that is money to help countries face the consequences of global warming and, rising sea levels, more intense storms, droughts, and is seen as a key issue for developing nations because for rich countries to pay up more adaptation finance, because adaptation projects are usually snubbed by private investors because they don't have good returns on investment. Just a seawall is not going to make money compared to a renewable energy project, for example. So that is seen as something very important for developing nations. Then there's also a voluntary initiative in this proposed deal to speed up climate action for countries to meet their climate pledges. This, along with fossil fuels, was one of the main sticking points in the negotiations, as there was mounting pressure from several countries for COP30 to really address this monumental gap in ambition. The fact that current climate plans essentially would take the planet to 2.5 degrees of warming, so quite very catastrophic levels of warming compared to 1.5 degrees as agreed under the Paris Agreement. Now, it's a voluntary initiative, so again, weak language in what's being proposed, as countries were expecting maybe more, for COP30 to, not maybe force countries, but at least in a more forceful way, demand that they strengthen their climate plans. Now, fossil fuels, the biggest point of contention in these negotiations. What we understand is that the proposal for a roadmap, which was called for by more than 80 countries, is not part of this proposed deal, but is going to be part of a separate text. So we're going to know more about what's going to be in that separate deal released later today.
And now we know a closing meeting has been scheduled, which could see a deal approved at this late point. But do you think it can pass the test?
Well, things certainly did not look good yesterday. On Friday, you were saying that the EU, for example, was saying we will not, under no circumstance, we will validate a deal that does not include fossil fuels, that is not ambitious enough in terms of strengthening climate plans. So the EU climate chief even raising the possibility yesterday that they would not agree on a deal. As you were saying, that has changed since then. The EU saying that although it is a flat, not ambitious deal, that they would support it. France's environment minister also speaking a short while ago, confirming that the EU would not oppose the deal, even though it lacks ambition. As you were saying, a closing plenary has been announced. It was supposed to start an hour ago. It was pushed back, and it should begin shortly. What is going to happen is that the presidency will list the different items that were part of the negotiation and part of the deal, and essentially gaveling through them one by one. Countries could still, in theory, voice their concern, their unhappiness, and say, we were expecting more, or we do not agree on this or that, but it could still, in theory, they could still barrel through all of the items and we would still get a deal. The fact that the EU, one of the most powerful blocs present at COP30, the US not being present, has said, okay, we will support the deal. I think it gives you an indication that they're probably going to barrel through and approve all of the different items, and we will get a deal.
Valérie, thank you so much for keeping us up to date. I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on what's continuing to happen over there. That's France 24's Valérie Dekimpe, our environment reporter.